talk about that with a member of the President's Council for Reopening Churches. Pastor Robert Jeffress from First Baptist Church in Dallas was on that call today. Pastor, what can you tell us?
Well, it was a tremendous call today with the president. Faith leaders from every major faith group in America were on that call, and we were absolutely on the same page with the president about when to reopen churches. And that's the belief that we need to reopen houses of worship as soon as it's safe to do so. Not one moment sooner, not one moment later. And Shannon, it's recognized by the president and all of us that that's going to look different for different churches. A large church like mine isn't going to go from not meeting at all to having thousands of people in the same place. The president's suggesting that it's going to be phased. He suggested maybe smaller groups in different venues at different times until we get back to normal. But one thing everybody was appreciative of, Shannon, was, and that is the president's belief that both worship and work are essential American activities, and we need to get back to both of those as soon as it's safe to do so.
Yeah, I think people are really looking forward to both those options. In the Washington Examiner, Tim Carney writes this. He says, roll back the stone. It's time to let people back into church. He says, let the church close every other pew. Maybe allow only one family per pew. Pastors could bar socializing, hugging, and shaking hands and instruct every family or individual to stay at least 6 feet away from every other family or individual. As you mentioned, you have a very large congregation. How do you see this eventually kind of phasing back in for larger places of worship?
Well, I do think you're not going to have people crammed in a sanctuary like ours any longer. I think the handshake is gone, and I'm not too sad to see that go myself. I think that's gone. I think the hugging probably is gone. I think the collection plate, passing that down the aisle and everybody touching it is gone. Maybe communion, people aren't going to reach out of the same tray. But those are minor things. The idea that we're going to be back together is what excites our people, and I believe that is going to happen sooner rather than later.
Do you think those things are permanently gone, the hugging and the passing the plate, or do you say maybe, you know, a few weeks, a few months until we have a vaccine? What do you mean when you say that?
I just think people are going to think differently about getting too close. I think some things are going to remain. And again, you know, God doesn't want us to live our lives in fear, but he does want us to exercise common sense. Being a person of faith doesn't mean being stupid. So I think we have to realize there are real dangers in the world. Take precautions, but enjoy being together in worship.
What do you make of this debate that people have been having about pastors who have continued to have services, be it if they're drive-through, drive-in, those kinds of things, or trying to have some kind of very small service with people all spaced out? There are churches in California who are suing the governor there. It just seems like there's a lot of upset about how much faith is enough, too much, how you should handle this kind of virus. You touched on that.
Well, we actually talked about that today on the phone call. And look, there are some overzealous local officials who have tried to shut down these drive-in churches where nobody was at risk. You know, at the local level, you have your Barney Fifes who sometimes get a little overexcited. And we're grateful that the president has asked his Department of Justice to weigh in on those issues. We cannot trample First Amendment rights in an effort to keep people safe. So I think there has to be a balance here. I think people have confidence in this president because of his strong stand on religious liberty, his desire to get places of worship up and going as soon as possible. And I'm not sure that there would be that trust in another administration that perhaps didn't have the same kind of record on religious liberty.
Well, I know that you, like I, and millions of people of all different faiths around the world are praying for our leaders to have great wisdom at this time. I don't think there's any better prayer we can have for them in all these difficult decisions that they're having to make. Pastor Jeffress, have a blessed Sunday, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Shannon.